What does training to failure look like? Hey everybody, thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. And I'm going to show around 6 or 7 different lifts through here. And I'm going to show you guys examples of me training to failure. I'm just going to have them playing in the background. This comes up a lot. People are kind of like, well, what does failure mean? And the way training failure is always defined in scientific research, and at least also historically training to failure, before the Menzer era of forced reps and intensity sets and all of that stuff, which means trying to train beyond failure. What training to failure means is that you do a set until you can no longer move the weight using strict form or full range of motion. Okay, in other words, when the weight simply stops moving. A lot of times people are kind of like, well, some of these you're hitting failure, but I don't see you like straining or grinding through. Well, sometimes I do on the last rep on the concentric, but that is what should happen. Like if you hit failure, like right there, saw what happened? I was doing this set, and when it got to the bottom end of the lengthened position, the weight just stopped moving. And what you're going to find on most exercises, and we need to be very clear on this, not all but the majority of exercises, particularly free weight exercises, are oftentimes harder at the bottom. Okay, so think about that for a moment. Like notice right there, all the pressing we stick at the bottom, all those extensions it sticks at the bottom. Okay, same thing. You'll watch these weighted chin-ups. When I have a hard rep, you can see me kind of fighting and shaking just a little bit on that last rep. So watch this. I think this is going to be 6 reps. Okay, I think this is my 3rd set that day. All right, got one, and then I come up. See that one shaking a little bit, and then I get to the bottom, and I simply couldn't move. Okay, simply could not move anymore. It just stuck at the bottom. All right, same thing when you watch these curls, although it's far more brief. So watch what happens with these curls. I'm going to describe each of these, and I'm going to talk a little more about failure. So, and I think this one was, again, approximately a 10 or 11 rep set. And I intentionally chose movements that I had already done multiple work sets with. So these were oftentimes the final sets because I record all this and log it. Okay, notice I'm straining right there. Okay, notice it's getting hard. I'm working. I'm struggling. Notice it slows down near the top, comes down, and then it just sticks at the bottom. So when I got there to the bottom, I just simply could not do another rep. Okay, now watch these incline curls, the exact same thing. With most free weight exercises, this is what happens with muscle failure. So the same thing, again, I think I got approximately 10 to 12 reps on this incline curl. Again, a stretch position movement. You can see my face on some of these. You can tell it's getting harder. Tell I'm struggling. I'm fighting with it. The reps are getting hard. Okay, the last couple of reps. And then it gets to the bottom and it just simply doesn't move. All right, incline dumbbell presses. Again, I tend to do a lot of reps on these. A lot of times I get 12 plus reps with this sort of weight. And this is usually my final press. I've usually done barbell work and stuff first. So I'm pretty fatigued by the time I get to these. So notice these. Again, notice this is very much a stretch position movement. Most presses like this, chest presses, are easier at the top biomechanically. So the muscles are usually under the most mechanical tension the lower you go. And so if it's getting difficult when you get to the bottom, what happens? It just sticks. It just sticks, and what happens there too, a lot of times people will want to help you on those. They're not really doing you any good because they're just helping you through the part where the muscle actually gets the most growth. Like it's almost not doing any good. You should just probably quit the set at that point. But most of these, you'll notice what happens. What happens when we get to failure? You guys can see on my face, some of these I start turning red. Sometimes you see me gritting. Sometimes occasionally you'll see me shake. The weight will slow down a little bit on, say, the last rep. Sometimes the second to last rep. The weight will start to move slower. And then it simply sticks at the bottom. It sticks at the bottom. And that's how we define failure. So what actually causes muscle failure? All right, what a lot of people are unaware of is we have a wide variety of muscle fibers, and when we recruit them sequentially. The slowest twitch fibers tend to go first. they fatigue very quickly, and as soon as they're not able to keep lifting the weight, because they'll keep working, but they're not going to be strong enough to keep lifting it. So pretty much every rep, new fibers are coming in. Right? New fibers are usually kicking in every single rep on most of our works, as if we're doing any appreciable weight. It's not a 50 rep set. So what ends up happening as they get more and more fatigued, new muscle fibers come in all the way until we get to the upper threshold, the highest threshold, fastest twitch fibers, the ones that do the real work, right? The ones that can produce the most force, because your body doesn't want to use those unless it has to. Those are also incidentally the ones that can grow the most, and they're oftentimes the only ones that grow as we get really advanced. In other words, those various intermediate fibers will grow as you're more novice, but the longer you train, the less they will grow. And you get over to where just like the type 2, certain types of those are the only ones that continue to grow once you've been training for years. Okay? But that's one reason people can continue to make strength gains over the years. It doesn't always continue to be in proportion. Like, you didn't really gain much size, but you put another 50 pounds on your bench over those several years. Well, yeah, that's definitely a factor. But so what ends up happening, once those muscle fibers get fatigued, if they're recruitable in the exercise we're doing or the range of motion we're doing, and they may not be, right? Not necessarily every muscle in your pecs is going to get used, every muscle fiber in there on a bench press, okay? We know this. It's going to use most of them. But when they get too fatigued to keep going and they can no longer lift the weight, it just stops. Then people say, well, how come then if someone helps you, you can do more reps with a lighter weight? Because you're going back to those intermediate fibers, okay? You're going back to the ones that actually won't even grow anymore once you're an advanced lifter. You've been training a while, those muscle fibers don't even grow. So if you've hit failure and someone helps you do several more reps, like they're taking 20% of the weight, you're probably not even gaining any muscle from it unless you're on magical supplements, and that's a different story. So that's what's happening, and this is how we define muscle failure. And it doesn't mean that you have to cheat or continue to, people are like, well, there's still muscle fibers left. But those are ones that you were already fatigued earlier on, and they're just not strong enough to lift the full weight anymore, right? Those are really not the ones that we care about. So trying to push beyond that failure is worth very little, if anything, in terms of muscle growth. But reaching that failure point does seem to be. And some people argue the last rep or two before it is actually capable of maximizing growth, even some researchers. But we know once we've reached kind of momentary muscle failure like that, and it can be brief, right? It can be just to where if you were to rest a few seconds, you might be able to do another rep. Once we reach that point, though, we have really fatigued all the available muscle fibers that are probably going to grow from that work set. Okay, and there's no need to necessarily cheat or try to do reps that you can't do anymore with good form. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.